Hey, it's Joel here. Just wanted to put together a bit of an introductory video to talk about the type of content that I expect to put on this channel. So I'm currently walking down an old rail corridor that runs along the river, and I usually find some interesting things while I'm out and about. I'm an avid cyclist and hiker, and also have a few model railroads that I've built in the past. I've had a couple HO layouts, a couple N-scale layouts. In the process of developing a new N-scale layout. It's starting to rain. Let me get my umbrella out. So anyways, as I've been in the planning stages of my new layout, which is going to be N-scale and based on the Norfolk Southern line, actually going to base it on some old rail lines that actually went under, but rewriting history a little bit to say if it hadn't gone under, it would actually be part of the Norfolk Southern system today. So I'm going to try and capture the gist of the area, kind of give that vibe of this area as if it was today and still had a railroad there. So kind of a fun project. But anyways, in the process of going through the planning stages, I found it really useful to watch a lot of the channels on YouTube with videos about their model railroads, or even some historical videos about the railroads and how they do things, even the modern railroads, and how they do things, how yards work, and how the local trains work versus the long trains that are covering long distances. So I'm by no means an expert in any of this, but as I start to build my layout, I thought it would be fun to kind of document it on a YouTube channel. So I put the channel together because I didn't want to get too far and try and cover what I've done. So as I'm building it out, we can see it from the beginning, and hopefully it's interesting for people to see it come together. But I've got some other things I want to put on there, and maybe it's a little bit of procrastination because the track planning and really getting going, building the bench work and stuff is a little bit overwhelming of an idea to me. So I've been working on other things, been converting a lot of all my original equipment's all DC, but I'm going with DCC with the new layout. So, I've been doing some DCC conversions on my locomotives, building models, just other things related to the model railroad, but not actually getting any track laid yet. So I think as I work through some of these other little projects, it'd be interesting to document those as well, to kind of show you what kind of things I'm up to, and maybe it'll help other folks that are getting started to say, oh, here's some ideas, or here's how Joel did it, whether it's right or wrong. Give you some ideas for how to do some things, or maybe how not to do some things. So I've also got myself into a little bit of a side hobby with 3D printing. So I expect to do a little bit of content on how I design my buildings and my rolling stock. I've been cranking out a bunch of coal hoppers and box cars and tank cars and things like that. And it's I discovered it's a little bit more fun if you design it yourself rather than just grabbing the STL files off of Thingiverse or whatever. I mean, that's certainly a quick way to get up and running, but if I want to model a specific piece of rolling stock that a local railroad used, sometimes you can't find it, and it's kind of, you feel accomplished, I guess, when you put something together and you start drawing it and it looks like it's going to be so difficult, and then you find that it does come together and you print it out and run it on the railroad for the first time and paint it up, put decals on it, and wow, I made all that stuff. So that's fun. Also, like I said, I'm a cyclist and a hiker. Like, I'm currently walking on an old railroad corridor. This corridor is actually going to be converted into a trail by next year. But I find myself on a lot of the rails to trails. And when I'm out and about, you run across a lot of historical bits, whether it be, old turntable or old coaling tower, old signal boxes and things like that, just from a time past. And, I think I'll take some pictures and little videos, kind of point out some things, because when we were putting together our model railroads, sometimes we overlook some of the finer details. And, when I was out camping in Ohio Pile, I was riding on the Gap, and, it used to be a rail corridor, but across the river, there's an active rail corridor. So just watching the trains roll through and looking across the river and seeing how they handle, some of the signaling, or, they got solar arrays to power some things. And it's like those kind of things you don't necessarily think of when you're building a layout, that, maybe I can, design some of these things on my 3D printer and put little line side details that you don't normally see. But anyways, I've been trying to hold an umbrella and walk and talk at the same time, so I didn't really show any video of the corridor itself. You just see me and my umbrella, but that's okay. But that's what I expect to do with the channel. When I'm out and about on the corridors, I'll have some videos of some modeling ideas. I don't know if I can find the pictures, but I'll try and share these as well. I found an interesting area where rails to trails and active rail lines were kind of really close to each other, crossing each other with bridges, and I thought, well, that's a neat idea to even show when you're modeling a railroad. Maybe show some abandoned lines, and maybe some of the abandoned lines are rails to trails, because that's kind of what I'm into. But I don't want to see all the railroads go away, which is kind of why I'm honoring the legacy of the railroads in this area by showing here's how it would look if they had survived. But it's kind of fun to put some of those other details in as well. But we'll see how it goes. I wanted to get this video up just to introduce the channel. I've got some other videos that I took when I was at Altoona for the N-Scale weekend. A lot of modular setups there, so hopefully I can get those together and get those online pretty quick. And then, like I said, as I'm out and about, and most of the videos from outdoors will probably happen during the summer when I'm out cycling. But I can kind of show you some of the historical bits and give you some ideas on some things to model, whether it's active railroad or you have some, even if you're modeling modern railroad, you can still have old historical bits kind of off on the sides, kind of tucked up in the woods. I hear some thunder. I probably should get off the trail, but this is something I noticed when I was riding a couple weeks ago. There's some old coke ovens. I'm not modeling an era where they have coke ovens because I'm doing modern times, but those things still exist, and we overlook those when we do our model railroads, I think. So I just want to get some ideas out there, and as I see some things, I'll share them with you. As my railroad comes together, I'll share it with you. And as I'm working on converting my old locomotives to DCC, I'll share some of those things. And hopefully it'll be a fun channel. Hopefully it'll be useful. I don't know, educational. I don't I don't consider myself to be an expert that can educate, but I'll take you along for the ride. But now I'm down here in Shenley, PA. This is not open yet. This is going to be a trail through here, but since I'm in the area, I'll just go ahead and let you look at this old Alco S2 and S1, I'm sorry. And you know, I think I'll wrap up this video here. But that's an idea, even if you're modeling modern times and you want to show off some old steam locomotives, even if they don't run. You know, a lot of railroads maybe have old junk parked around, or, you know, in this case, you know, this is just parked here as a static display. And, you know, a lot of trails have old rolling stock along them. But, you know, so if you kind of model that junction between the crossover between railroads and trails, you know, you can have some static displays from old equipment. Maybe have a little bit of a museum or something along those lines if you have a little extra space. Not everything on the layout has to be, you know, operational. You know, so that's something I might do with some of my old DC locomotives. You know, I'm going to convert as many of them as I can to DCC, but there are some I'm looking at them, I'm like, there's no way, and I'm not just going to throw them out. So, you know, whether you put them in a plexiglass display case, you know, in your train room, or whether you build, you know, some kind of museum with displays along your, you know, in town where the railroad's rolling through. Because even if you have active rail through town, you know, let's face it, even in modern times, there is so many rails that have been ripped out, you know. So you might have an active rail line through town, but you're also going to have some old lines that got ripped out, and they might have some static displays, you know, for the, you know, in a park that's nearby. So, some ideas. Something to do with your old equipment that doesn't run or is obsolete. Go ahead and paint it up and make a museum out of it. Anyways, that's a little tangent I didn't mean to go on, but I happened to be walking past that locomotive. So, you know, I'll see you in the next video, and hopefully you enjoy the trip.